and I'm coming at you from the Mozaic Works studios. And since this video is scheduled to be published close to the end of the year 2023, it's a traditional time to look back and make a quick retrospective of the year and think about what will happen in the next year. So this is what I will try to do as briefly as I can. And I would like to start first by thanking all of you for participating in conversations. Thank you to everybody from the community who posted comments, who replied to our posts, who made suggestions, who watched the videos, who subscribed to the channel. It's really great to see that we have this community growing little by little, but catching up steam. And it's important for us to know that you find these materials valuable, because this is one of the reasons why we want to do them, in order to give you relevant, important, interesting information, different perspectives, things or ways to look at the same things but that are different and that allow you to better yourself in your profession, in your professional life, as a developer, as a software designer, as a software architect, and as a manager or as a product person. So it's really interesting and useful for us to get these comments and to get this type of communication. And what I can tell you is that I will continue thinking about how to make this even easier and how to bring more of us together. I think the most important part of this year has been this growth in our community and the growth in the interactions between us. But there's still a lot of work to do, and we still need to do a lot more in order for you to get together with us and, ask your questions, post your comments, and so on. We understand that. I also like to thank everybody, all our guests. This year, it's been a very interesting year in the sense that we changed our strategy a little bit before, and to a certain extent we'll do that in the future. We invited people who we found interesting or we wanted to learn more about them, but this year we also did something different, which was when there was an interesting topic, we tried to find people who were better suited to discuss the topic than us and invite them. And you could see this most prominently with the series that we did on the McKinsey proposal for productivity metrics in software development. We did a series in which we looked at and we reacted at the initial article, then at the reactions, and then we invited sleepy folks who gave us a very interesting account on the limits of metrics and how in reality software development cannot be estimated. So it's been a very interesting learning to get these different perspectives and to get into the mix people who are better at these things and can bring more knowledge, more insight into the topic of the day, let's say. We also did a lot of videos this year, and as a personal achievement, I find that it's great that it's much easier for me now to do videos. When I first started doing this, it took me a while to get into the necessary energy to be able to record a video every week and sometimes more videos in advance. So it's been quite challenging for a while. It was hard to deal with the whole technical side at the same time as controlling, the microphone and how I'm speaking and what's going on in the background. So I think things got much better, and I now can easily start a new video and record it, and that's already a good thing. Of course, we probably could do some more regarding the content, the editing, and so on. I personally enjoy having these videos that are relatively uncut because they sound more genuine than if we start cutting. But on the other hand, maybe sometimes I'm meandering and talking about different topics that I find interesting, going on tangents and so on. But that's up to you. Please let us know if you have any feedback. But in order to deal with that, we also started a series of videos called explanations, explainers, which are shorter and explain one specific topic. So this is where you will get, let's say, the more focused videos that go into specific details for different things. Now, a few things that I found interesting this year from my perspective were, number one, nullable testing patterns. We discussed those in a video on February 25th, and I actually started experimenting with it, but only September, October. The plan initially was to record a series for the summer, but it will probably be for the next summer, or I will showcase some examples from the application I'm working on and where I started to use nullable testing patterns in kind of a new style of modular monolith. Let's say a kind of extreme modular monolith architecture. And so I'm looking forward to experiment some more, show you some examples also from this style of architecture and to get some feedback. I already had some chats with friends and showed them, this is kind of what I'm doing in terms of this design pattern, and they found it quite interesting, and they found some issues with it and some limitations, and so I'm looking forward to setting this a bit more and give you some more details, but it will probably be sometime in February or so. Second thing that I found very interesting was the conversation with Sleepy Fox that I mentioned, and one part of that conversation was that software development can be estimated. We extracted this part, and it's also published as a separate short video, so if you don't want to watch the full length conversation, although I would highly encourage you to do so because it's extremely interesting, you can just focus on that part because I'm really curious what you think. And the third thing that I learned is that we still need to work on fundamentals. Based on the posts that I see, there are a lot of things that seems to be confusing for software developers. There were various conversations around things like clean code. Do we still need clean code? Does it matter in modern languages? And the short answer is, I think we still need clean code until we can find other rules for writing code that is easy to read, easy to understand, or until we completely remove the human part of code writing, understanding, and so on. So something approximating clean code will still be needed. There were various other talks about dependency injections, about type systems, about inheritance, about monoliths. and we reacted to a bunch of these monolith versus microservices. And we also added to this a few explainers that I think are very valuable because they are inspired by our what we notice when we teach developers things like distributed systems, and they realize that they have tried to do distributed systems, but they don't know their limitations. They are not familiar with the cap theorem. They are not familiar with the 8 wrong assumptions about distributed systems. And so there's another video on this. We also did a few videos on how to deal with datetime, how to validate email addresses, things like that. These are problems that recur again and again. And now I'm really curious what will happen on 29th February next year. We are just at the point of when this video is published will be probably around 50 something days to 29th February, and usually on 29th February something goes bad in software systems. We've seen this again and again and again. So I'm really curious what will happen. And we are doing our best to raise awareness that, this day will come and you need to prepare your system for this. And you have some videos on how to do that actually on our channel. Now, we plan to do more of these types of videos, and I plan to invite more people and to react to more articles. If you find any interesting topics, any interesting articles, feel free to communicate with us and to post them in comments, because we really want to focus on those things that are important to you. Now, of course, there were some other things that happened, and we can't avoid the AI part of software development that kind of took the year by storm. ChatGPT, OpenAI, and then other LLMs. This is something that we have touched upon but not really got into, and the reason for that is I believe there's been a very chaotic year until now. There's a lot of hype, a lot of different information. Some of it is fed by marketing and by a lot of money. So we'll have to wait a little bit for the dust to settle until we figure out which are the actual which is the reality of these tools. But for 2024, and now we can move to topics of interest for this channel in 2024, I think besides, let's say, recent events and everything that will happen, and that will take them one by one, and we'll try to get guests and discuss about some of those issues. And what I think will be interesting is to watch LLMs, but in particular, two things. One of them is custom LLMs. So, for example, you take an open model like Llama 2, or, well, there are a few, and then you train on top of this model on some, let's say, company data. And after you do that, you can use it through APIs or through assistants in order to do various things. Like, imagine if you had this for your legacy code, and you could ask, where is this feature implemented? And where do I need to change in order to do X? And even if you don't get complete and correct answers, even if it gives you like 80% of them correctly, it's still a good thing because you can get there faster. So this is the kind of thing that I'm really interested in. I'm also interested in assistive LLMs for software development. I know there are some experiments with assistants, and some of them use test-driven development, which to me is a no-brainer. Test-driven development is a particularly good method to use with LLMs because it has patterns. It actually has a language, more or less. There are still some decisions that you need to do, but I often thought that you could encode the moves you are doing with test-driven development in a language similar with chess, only slightly more complicated with the chess notation. So I think if you are able to do anything remotely close to this and kind of standardize, maybe not all, but let's say 80% of test-driven development, we might end up with an assistant that by going through the TDD cycles can actually give you code that is understandable, that works. And maybe you might need at each step to do some review and accept the changes or make some specific adjustments. But I think it's definitely an experiment to look for. I'm not sure if it will work. This is why the keyword here is experiment. But it is an interesting way of seeing software development. And I think it might be possible. The only question is, if you have errors, how much will they compound with multiple steps? This is where it's kind of difficult, but maybe with better tools we can figure that out. I don't know, which is why it's also an interesting area of where to look and to check out these types of tools. So I'm less interested in what OpenAI and ChatGPT can do. I'm more interested in how we can use these models for custom things. This will be very interesting to see. Another thing that I will look at is based on a story from this year, C++ versus Rust. So NSA deemed C++ as being memory unsafe. I think it was in March or something like that. And the question is C++ being replaced by Rust? And I don't really know the answer. And also a separate question is the standardization committee doing anything to improve the memory safety of C++? And I think this will matter in the long run. I'm not sure it will have direct effects next year, but it might have effects in a few years' time. So it will be hard to see if anything changes, but maybe with the popularity reports for languages, we might see some trends there. It will be very interesting to see. In a related thing, WebAssembly is becoming a very interesting technology that I'd like to try. WebAssembly is like assembly is for programming languages, let's say for C++. WebAssembly is the same thing for JavaScript. So it's basically a underlying layer of blocks that you can call, and it allows us to write code using WebAssembly with different programming languages like Rust. Rust is a very used language in this area. And this leads to a number of things. One of them is that you can run in browser applications that are more optimized, and that things like games or heavy simulations or stuff like that. The second thing, which is very interesting, is because by its nature WebAssembly will run in a sandbox, it is a potential solution for zero trust security or for improved security. You can run by writing microservices in WebAssembly. You can count more on the underlying sandbox to block some potential security issues. So that will be another interesting technology to try and to watch. It doesn't seem mature yet, but there are some interesting developments in this area. And finally, one last, although not necessarily the last one as a priority, but I'm really interested in this effect of shifting left security, which basically means that we need more and more to treat security in all areas of development, and starting from the initial phases, which also means that developers need to learn more about security. And we had a lot of success this year with a learning program on secure coding. And we will develop some more here. We have some very interesting and fun plans where developers can learn more about security in even more fun ways than until now, because there are some challenges here, and we are looking to overcome them. But it's a really interesting thing, and particularly with the recent conflicts and with the increase in attacks, in cyber attacks, you can definitely see the need for more security, for better security knowledge and so on. So it's really something that we need to do more of and to focus on. And I've always been interested in security, and now it seems like a good time to get there. There is also an interesting connection between LLMs and security. Could we use custom LLMs for improving security? That might be a very interesting area to look at. So these are my thoughts and kind of a brief retrospective and what you could expect from us for the next year. As usual, one video per week, either something that will react to the news of the day or to the topics of the day, guests, answers to your questions when you post them in comments or in any way, or as answers to our posts on YouTube. And you can expect the usual from us next year, only hopefully even better, even more focused, with an even more interesting approach to the things that you want to learn and to understand or to change your perspective. With this being said, this is all I have for you for this year, and I'd like to wish you a very happy new year. I hope that everything will go well for you. And what do you think about these directions? Let us know in the comments. We love comments. Please tell us some of the topics that you find interesting, that you found interesting this year, and that you might find interesting for next year. Until next time, thank you kindly for the view, and remember to think, design, and work smart.